Those people down there in Tampa and North Carolina, God bless them. But let me tell you something. They were not financially prepared for a disaster. If anything happens, they can't survive a month. That's why everybody mad at FEMA. And don't get me wrong, they should be mad at FEMA.
As of April of 2023, the average American savings rate is 4.1. This is going to be based off of disposable income, meaning after taxes and bills. What Americans have left over, they're only saving about 4.1% of that money. 39% report not having 1 month's worth of income saved. A separate 34% have reported that they have less than $5,000 saved for an emergency. Additional statistics also show that 56% of Americans couldn't come up with $500 for an emergency situation. So when we start talking about the power of financial literacy, understanding access to financial resources, and the power of, as a backup plan for having credit cards, and not only credit cards, but high limit credit cards, I hope this puts a little context on that for you. But to drive this point home a little further, I'm gonna take you back in time about 3 months where I cover a separate video on this topic prior to the real initiation of hurricane season really kicking in. And I want you to take a look so you can have some additional context of where I'm coming from. High credit card limits on the personal side are great. At the time of this recording, the previous video I shot last week, prior to the existence of this storm, I mentioned the emergency circumstances of high credit limits. In my case, where I live, a hurricane can come through during hurricane season and push us out anytime from June to November and force us to spend thousands of dollars that we didn't budget for. And having those credit limits can basically give a buffer until I'm able to get reimbursed for my, through my company or through local or state government benefits on that evacuation to protect myself and my family, to make sure we can eat, that we can clothe ourselves, that we have shelter, and everything we need to sustain our lifestyles for potentially weeks or further down the line if that storm comes through and create enough damage. And at the time of this recording, of course, July 1st, there's a massive hurricane for the first time on record this early in the storm season that is potentially facing my particular region in Southeast Louisiana to somewhere in Mexico. I may look up at the time of this recording, this video dropping July 5th most likely. This Friday, I may be evacuating days later and have to shack up myself and my immediate family for days to weeks on end. Thousands of dollars in food, clothes, and shelter, gas, etc. to survive for a storm that could potentially come through and cause significant, if not catastrophic, damage to my region. So as you've heard for yourself, as you can see, I don't have a crystal ball, but it's evident I have life experience and I've seen this play out time and time again. Yes, in an ideal world, we would all have a bunch of cash saved up when these emergencies and unplanned scenarios come across our desks. We'd have the ability to dip into our savings and reach into the steep cash pool and be able to cover ourselves for however long we need to, whether that's a long-term or short-term evacuation, repairs necessary on homes, etc. But the reality and the stats that I gave you at the beginning of this video demonstrate tens of millions of Americans do not have that luxury. When you look at the case in Florida and different parts of the East Coast that have been absolutely ravaged at the time of this recording by Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, which I want to take a moment of solidarity and silence to acknowledge what those people have been through and what they're going through. Of course, all prayers, best wishes go out to those people. And I can't drive the point home enough in this video on how important it is to be financially literate as possible and have access to actual financial resources. And that goes beyond cash. Yes, ideally, you have a great job, you have great savings, and you're able to protect and provide for yourself and your family in case of emergency. Large swaths of this country don't have that ability. The next best option is using your financial literacy and the other financial tools available to protect yourself and protect your family. What are a few sticking points of why high limit credit cards in particular can be such a great backup plan to cash, or supplemental plan or support system to cash savings or a lack of cash savings? One major point is this isn't a direct point of capital that you have for your purchases. Credit cards are accepted nearly everywhere, so pretty much any purchase that you need to make around food, clothes, and shelter and any other essential items can be made with a credit card more securely than a debit card. The next benefit of having credit cards as a backup, and at that higher limit credit cards, is when these emergencies come around, many of us will be waiting on FEMA's reimbursement and other government support in order to cover the money we put out to survive. Having high limit credit cards will allow you to put 4 figures in expenses, potentially in some cases 5 figures in expenses on those cards if you absolutely have to, and give you time time to float until you can start getting reimbursement and start getting back to making some income if you're displaced from it. Why it's even more important to have high limits when using this as a backup plan is because if you do have to put $3, $5, $7, or $10,000 in expenses over the course of weeks or months to sustain yourself and your family, you can do so without completely tanking your credit if you have 30, 40, 50, 70, or $100,000 in total credit limits available. You're still able to stay in a safe range of utilization while buffering yourself and your family in case of such catastrophic emergencies like the hurricane season that Florida is suffering at the time of this recording. Some additional perks and benefits is going to be purchase protections, various forms of insurance, and of course rewards points that many cards will offer. Top of all of these other features is that if you're financially savvy, then you're likely stacking and keeping in your back pocket fresh 0% credit cards that are offered by dozens and dozens of banks. There's hundreds of 0% credit cards available in the marketplace. You can simply pull one fresh one a year and have 12 to 15 or 18 months of 0% on those cards. Simply by getting one of those a year and preparing for natural disasters with that card can allot you the ability to literally have cash access and not pay a lick of interest to do so, while protecting yourself and floating your finances in the case of such emergencies. That's just a handful of reasons why I advocate for high limit credit cards and the value and the power of financial resources like relationship banking, your ability to be displaced and still have access to your money virtually and at a tangible branch if necessary. On top of that, relationship banking leads you into higher credit card qualifications and approvals. This is the backup buffer to cash. Even if you have cash, you can still use your credit cards for safer purchase methods, rewards points, purchase protections, and still not pay a lick of interest while preserving your cash that's hopefully somewhere parked earning interest. If you don't have that cash available, then strategically stacking up these credit cards on a yearly basis with quality banks will lead to you being able to buffer and float until you're able to be reimbursed and get yourself back to work earning an income, and do so at no interest if you do this strategically. Yes, I get it. This is still a form of debt when used in that form, but I am teaching you a straightforward way to do this effectively, not pay a lick of interest, use a more effective and safe payment form, and still earn a little bit of arbitrage on the back end while you're struggling. In many cases, many people will be struggling to adapt to their new circumstances, as to which you may not be able to come home for weeks, months, and some people will not have a home to come back to. Again, I want to give my condolences to everybody who's been deeply affected by this storm season. Lord knows I can relate, being where I'm from, and I hope this information reaches at least a few people going forward that can better prepare themselves for these types of catastrophes. Comment down below. Please show your love and support for those directly affected by Helene and Milton. Also comment down below and let me know what you think about the strategy that I laid out, what financial plans and preparations you have in place for emergencies, what portion of it is cash, do you exercise credit cards as a backup option. I want you to comment down below and add to this conversation so others can get education and get data points and strategies that they can use to protect themselves going forward. And maybe some people affected now can use to support themselves as they struggle to survive and get back on their feet. Other than that, to all my pioneers, welcome back. To my new viewers, welcome in. I want you guys to like, comment, share, and subscribe so you can continue to support this channel, and this channel can continue to support and reinvest back into you. As you've also probably learned, there's a new opportunity to support this channel. That opportunity is going to allow you to actually contribute to this channel financially and get a return and share in the profit and the revenue of this channel as it grows. You want to learn more about that opportunity? The link is in the description down below. Other than that, I want each of my pioneers to stay focused, stay in motion. I'll see y'all soon.